biggest challenges for Frances beginning her studio journey, Frances's architectural vision behind Body Machine Performance Studio, and simple physical changes that can make a big difference for any fitness studio. All of that and more coming up in today's show. You're listening to the industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers, where each week we invite business experts, coaches, authors, and owners from all around the world to share their expert advice with you, the FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast partner, Active Management. Hello, FBP family. I am your host, Dory Nugent, and I hope the Fitness Business Podcast family is having a fantastic week. I am just about to start episode 310 with my special guest, Frances Mikuriya, owner of Body Machine Performance Studio in downtown London. But before I do, here is a message from our friends at Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
Today, Frances Mikuriya talks about her two passions, fitness and architecture. With over 20 years of experience in the fitness industry, Dr. Frances Mikuriya is what I would call a glorified go-getter. Without further ado, I introduce you to Frances.
Hi, everyone. I'm Frances Mikuriya. Super excited to be here on Fitness Business Podcast. So I'll give you a brief introduction of myself. I have two passions, fitness and architecture. So all my life, I've been involved in both. My academic background is in architecture. I've completed 4 degrees in architecture, a professional degree, 2 master's degrees, and also a doctorate degree in architecture. And during the same time, I've been involved in the fitness industry, and I've achieved and got qualified with a number of qualifications in the fitness industry, and I'm still continuing to elevate myself by constantly learning and acquiring more qualifications.
Absolutely fantastic that you've taken those two separate passions and combined them into one. I want to read something that I saw on your website, and I want our listeners to hear that I thought was absolutely brilliant. And then I'm going to go right into asking you your first question. And I saw on your website, on your opening page, you had a video. It was about 54 seconds long. And I loved what you said. You said, I wanted to build something with identity, where architecture and fitness are integrated with purpose that takes into account the gym user's needs, movements, and experience. I thought, like I said, that was absolutely brilliant. And what I want to ask you first, Frances, is being that you have an architecture background plus numerous fitness certifications, what links do you see between the two?
So people always ask me this similar question, just in different ways. Why is it that you're so deeply involved in 2 completely different fields, and you just can never let go of one or the other, and you're always doing both at the same time? To be honest, I actually find them pretty much the same. I don't see architecture and fitness are different. And architecture and the human body are both structures. So to design a piece of architecture, whether it be a building, a bridge, a tower, the design and engineering need to be optimized for it to be durable, functional, and long-lasting. This is exactly the same as the human body. Every human body has a structure and body composition, which will be different in every individual. So to get optimal results adjusted to the individual's needs and wishes and goals, we have to apply the correct training methods suitable to that individual's ability and potential. So as fitness professionals, our goals would be to help our clients to achieve the fitness results so that their bodies can be long-lasting, durable, whether it be in endurance training or strength training, for them to have the mobility and flexibility and to prevent injuries. This often happens in terms of injuries when the structure is at risk, whether it be muscular imbalances, which leads to compensation or overuse. This is not different from a building. A poor structure will collapse. So also if you're training someone to be able to adapt to different conditions, they could be an athlete having to deal with climate changes or landscape variations, for example, hills for cyclists and runners. You need to have a program to help them to be resilient and to adapt to these conditions. Again, this is the same as architecture. A long-lasting piece of architecture needs to be resilient to its environment and sometimes extreme climate conditions. So architecture and the human body are similar. The most beautiful, durable architecture are the results of optimally engineered and designed structures.
I'd like to know what has been the biggest challenges for you in your journey from being a fitness professional to starting your own fitness studio?
Yeah, so there are lots of challenges. I mean, some I was obviously expecting, but some I did not expect. So I would say one of the biggest challenges is that unlike being a freelance fitness professional, which I've been working as for over 20 years, I was working on my own, I had my own clients, and if I taught anywhere, I would just show up and deliver my best. As a studio owner, I can make sure all my equipment is faultless and in place, but I realized I cannot do everything on my own. I'm no longer just only on my own. I can give myself 100% dedication, effort, commitment, but I need a team. So this has been the most challenging aspect. This team not only includes instructors, but receptionists, cleaners. I also have a cafe, so got a barista as well. So to build a team has been difficult. And again, from working on my own to building a studio, I mean, my scale, my studio is really large. It's 7,400 square feet. So span over 3 floors. So the responsibility becomes tenfold or more. And you also encounter different clients coming in. So unlike previously, okay, book this client, book that client, I know who's coming into my class, maybe some new faces, but now I get different people knocking on our doors, coming in, making phone calls, asking questions. I just have to make sure that, I can cope with that and my team can cope with that too. Also, one key thing, which obviously every studio owner wants to make sure, is that they keep their standards high. Right. So we have to keep our standards high, not only in the classes, not only what we deliver, how we coach people, but again, in the hygiene level of the studio, in my cafe, in the food we serve, and standards maintain high in every aspect of the studio.
Frances, I heard you say earlier about your vision of your studio, and I'd like to turn our attention to your studio, and it's called Body Machine Performance Studio. And I know you did say it's about 7,400 square feet, 3 stories. What was your vision behind your studio?
So I wanted to offer a studio that provides high-level coaching, proper coaching, no fads, no gimmicks. I also wanted to make people feel comfortable and not intimidated in the classes or in the space. I mean, it's a bit crazy, but it is a very personal environment where I pretty much know every single client who comes in by their first name. And the architecture obviously is critical. I decided to work together with my architecture partner, Jørgen Tandberg, who is an architect based in Norway. So we met when we were both students at the Architecture Association School of Architecture in London. And because I know his aesthetic vision is very similar to mine, and we both not only share the same vision, but we both are very passionate about what we do so we could work well together. So an important vision is to make people feel comfortable and focus in their workouts. Therefore, the design of the space is completely critical.
Okay, and what would you say are a couple of your physical features that you've designed that when your clients walk through the door, they just go, wow?
Yeah, so some of the physical features that we've designed when people go, wow, include the spaciousness. We designed the space to be very open and spacious in terms of the idea was not to cram in tons of bodies in one tight studio or one tight space and to cram in 50 bikes in a very tight space where people are sweating on each other. That was really important for us because we want people to come in here to feel comfortable, to feel like that, okay, we can still interact with other people in a group class, but we also can feel like we're immersed in the workout and feel calm. So a lot of people tell us that, wow, I feel so calm here. I don't feel like I'm being rushed. I feel like I can really focus on my workout. And that really is one really important key factor that we try to put in here. And other physical features include, I would say, the aesthetics. I really believe, like we both believe, that simplicity is key. So there's no crazy decoration, no ornaments. The building actually has been around since the early 1900s. It's one of the first steel and concrete buildings, one of my favorites from the modernist architecture period. And we just chose bits and pieces to expose so that you still see the history of the past and being able to merge it with what we need for the present, for the function of each studio, each part of the space. And I think another wow factor would be the lightness in terms of the lightness of the space, but because this whole floor, the first floor we've got, it's all glass. It used to be retail, so it used to be Topshop in the 60s. So when I first saw the space, when I was looking for a site, I immediately told myself, this is it. This is the place where I want people to work out in because there's natural light and, most studios are in the basement. We do have a basement where we have our spin studios and changing rooms, but really we try to take advantage of the natural light we have in here. And when people walk into the studio, into this, which is a TRX studio at the moment, people are really wowed by it. And some things that are not physical features, they are physical features, but people actually don't see. And one really important thing is ventilation. And it's interesting, I'm talking about this all right now with you during our pandemic, but this was something I've always factored in from the beginning because I would never, ever open a fitness studio where it's not properly ventilated. So I hired a mechanical engineer and insisted that we have to have proper ventilation. They calculated all the airflow. We got fresh duct extract coming in, drawing in fresh air from the outside and pushing out all the stale air. So we don't have any recycled air. And people do realize that. They're like, wow, I'm sweating so much, but I can breathe. I feel really good. And then I'm like, it's my ventilation that you don't see because it's all hidden above my perforated ceilings. So that is also key because we want people to work out in a healthy environment for them to feel comfortable. And that's why the design is so important.
Frances, design is important. We've had several architects on the podcast, and just being in the industry and talking to people, there's definitely a push towards, architecture and how things look and how things are presented within a club. So I have a question here. In the industry, architects usually say that the lobby of a gym and the changing rooms are the most important areas to create a wow factor. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, can I say I disagree with that?
Okay, good.
I can see why the industry architects you mentioned would say that the lobby of a gym would be one of the most important areas to create a wow factor, because that's the first thing you see, right? So you come in, that first initial experience is key. That's why you want to hire a receptionist who's friendly and who can attract people coming into your door. However, I disagree, because every aspect of the gym should have that wow factor, or it should really be well designed. You can't just only focus on the lobby and the changing areas. People are coming in to work out. That's the purpose of the people coming into your facility. And if your studio space is actually disappointing or doesn't compare or match up to your lobby or changing rooms, then I think you failed in your design. It's important that the studio space has the wow factor, every single aspect. We designed the space thinking every single bit that the client will experience needs to be comfortable and inviting, and needs to have that wow factor. And circulation is key. So I've got pockets of spaces that, again, people don't really realize, but they're designed for people to, wait before a class starts and allow people to network with other people while they're waiting for a class or coming out of class. So pockets of spaces like that, stretch areas, those are all super important.
I love that you disagree. I love that. I think that's great that you're like, no, that's not right. Space needs to be equally impressive and equally wow. And I love that you talk about the little pockets. I think that's super important as well. Very nice.
Sorry, I forgot to mention the changing rooms. Yeah, that also, we've had a lot of thought into that as well. And our changing rooms are designed that we obviously don't have, it's not a spa or anything, but the changing rooms are designed so that every shower has its own separate shower cubicle, so you get that privacy. We designed some shower cubicles that are larger so people can actually change their clothes in the shower cubicle instead of being in this common space. So we're thinking about the psychology of the clients. So as an architect and designer, that's what you have to think about is, what do I want to see when I go into a fitness studio? What do I want to experience? How do I want to feel? And I think that's, if you can actually understand your clients coming in, their mentality and their expectations, then I really think that anybody can design. You don't have to be an architect. You can design, an amazing facility.
Right. So I'm going to ask your opinion on something else, because obviously, with your background in just the study of architecture, and then your passion, and then you've done a lot of research, it sounds like, as well. What advice could you give our listeners out there that would be some low-cost ideas to create a wow factor for when people enter a facility?
I think some low-cost ideas could be having plants. Some plants cost more, but I think that plants really, everybody loves plants. And also it gives that sense of vitality to space. And some plants actually smell quite nice when you walk in. And I think mirrors, we have lots of mirrors. Obviously, all of the gyms have mirrors, but they can also be not only in the changing rooms, they could be in your lobby area, they could be in the corridors, they could be at your reception, because especially if your space is smaller, the mirrors could create that extension, the illusion of the extension of space. And, that actually works really, really well. Lighting is key. And I think that obviously most people prefer natural lighting, but if your facility doesn't have the natural lighting, maybe you should consider the ability to dim your lighting or to make it brighter, to have that flexibility, or actually look at your lighting. Is it a warm kind of lighting, or is it kind of just like bright in your face that is just the kind of office lighting that if somebody's sitting in the office all day, the last thing they want to do is to go to a gym that has that kind of similar kind of lighting. So I think lighting is something that can be considered, or that should be considered for sure.
Okay, those are three good, easy things that studio owners could apply to. And sometimes it's the little small things that make the biggest difference. So I have one more question for you, Frances. You built your studio, we'll say I don't want to say from the ground up because the building was in place, but you designed your studio. Now that it's open, now that you're in it and it's up and running, what would you change? Is there anything that you would change?
To be honest, no, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, it was a challenge to build this. We got this space, and it was previously, like I told you, it was Topshop and Miss 60, so fashion retail. Hence, we have the big windows overlooking High Street, Kensington, in London. But it was a complete empty raw shell. We had concrete tiles, bricks sticking out everywhere. I wanted to open a facility that's DDA compliant, meaning anybody with a wheelchair can also have access to my facility. I'm not sure how it is in the US since I left the US 18 years ago, but it's not a requirement here in the UK to have your facility to be able to accommodate wheelchair users or disabled people. So I had to put in an elevator or a lift and also a staircase here. And everything's measured so that anybody with a wheelchair can actually have access to our studio. And like I said, with all the design features that both Jorgen and I thought through and continue to think through from the beginning to the end of the construction, and with people's feedback that we got from people coming in to experience the space, I'm actually really happy with what we've achieved here. And also we've had constraints and restraints as well, of course, with building and being a commercial building.
Well, I love the fact that you're proud of what you've built. You're happy with what you've built. And obviously a lot of planning has gone into having, building your facility. And I think that's great. I love to hear that you're happy with it. Nothing worse than saying, I would scrap the whole thing all over again.
I think because as long as you've got that mentality that, okay, we've got this space, what can we do with this space to make the most out of it? So if I open a second body machine performance studio, which has always been our goal to open a second one and a third one, then obviously we'll be in a different location and a different building, and then we just have to see what we can do with that.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Frances, what are your 3 tips for transforming a physical facility without knocking it down and starting again?
So I would consider a few things. If you are unable to knock down walls and starting again, obviously that costs a lot. And a lot of times people don't think that they actually don't need to do that. You can be creative in several ways. So one would be, look at your color scheme. You can paint the walls. Maybe you've always had a really dark because you like that kind of like underground nightclub vibe, but maybe it's not suitable now anymore. Or maybe you just want to change. Maybe you want people to come in to your facility feeling like, wow, something's changed here, to feel refreshed. So I would consider looking at the color scheme of your entire facility. It doesn't have to be all the same colors. So that's something that I find quite fun to do. And flooring, a lot of places, a lot of gyms use wood flooring. And we don't have any wood flooring here because you can see over time they get really dirty, they get beat up, they get scratched, and it just makes your facility look a bit worn and old. If you've been open for a few years and you got wood flooring, not that I'm against it, but I think that one should really choose wisely and consider, well, what's the lifespan of this kind of material? And also maybe, consider, like we have tiles here, and but obviously in areas where we're worried that people may slip, if they're wearing spin shoes, then we got the rubber flooring. So we got different flooring in different places, which also has been really fun for us to design, because if you think about the transition from, say, your public area, where people come in, the lobby, the receptionist area, to going into your studios, to the changing rooms, you could have different flooring in different places. And that's also, it's something that a lot of people may not notice, but actually unconsciously, it does affect them, I think, in a positive way. And I would just encourage one to be fun and to be creative with that, just like the walls, the color scheme. And I think another thing is your layout. Without knocking down walls, can you maybe move your locker somewhere or your benches? Reconsider the layout. Is it too crammed? Obviously, most studio owners are thinking price per square meter and try to cram everything in, but you'll be surprised. Members do feel that a lot of times I hear people saying, and I've been to so many different gyms and I've taught in so many different gyms all my life. A lot of people feel that the space is too crammed. I feel claustrophobic, and even more important during this pandemic, with the social distancing, I think that people are now starting to rethink about their layouts, obviously, but I think that the circulation of one space is key.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
It's time to get back to our show. Frances, thank you so much for coming on the show. I have to tell you, though, I loved your Fitspiration pieces, your painting, flooring, and layout. I thought they were great nuggets for club owners and operators to take away.
Thank you so much. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'm super excited to talk about my two passions, architecture and fitness. And I'm also very happy to have the opportunity to share my own experience, about the construction here and the vision that I've had, and also to offer some tips. And I'm happy to offer any tips that I can be of help with. So anybody who's interested can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to help if I can.
Thank you so much, Frances, for taking the time out of your day. How impressive is she? 4 degrees and multiple top-notch fitness certifications. Geez, I thought I was a go-getter, but she definitely has me beat by a long shot. Now, here's a message from our sponsor, One Fit Stop.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, One Fit Stop, for their support, and we highly recommend all fitness professionals go to onefitstop.com to find out how their software will enable you to take control of day-to-day management in your fitness business. One Fit Stop's scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools will set your business up for success.
Quickfire 5.
And here is this week's Quick Fire 5 with our special guest, Grant Gamble, the author of The Affinity Principle. Hello, FBP family. Today we have Grant Gamble with us for our Quick Fire 5 questions. So, Grant, welcome. And are you ready?
I'm ready, Dory. I'm ready.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Number 1, who inspires you in your life and why?
Really, anybody that's trying to have a positive impact on the wellness of humanity, animals, or the planet.
Perfect. And why do you do what you do, Grant?
I love changing lives. I started in the industry, fitness industry, very early. And what I got the most joy from was changing the lives of people. And so now I build companies that change lives on a larger scale, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And my favorite question of all is, if you were not doing what you were doing, what would you be doing?
I'd be writing full time. I love the process. I love working with a team. I love, taking a book from concept to, published. So I'd just be hunkered down. I'd be an introvert instead of an extrovert.
Hey, we just had a great show on introverts a couple episodes ago. You should check it out. The Joanna Ralbo was absolutely amazing.
It's a great topic.
All right. Next one is, what's one book, podcast, blog, or Facebook group you would recommend and why?
Well, I'm reading Limitless right now by Jim Quick. It's a phenomenal book. It's good for everybody. From my teens are listening to it. It's so valuable to them, in terms of learning and memory and good habits, yet I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum to them, and I'm loving the book. So it's Limitless by Jim Quick.
All right. Sounds like a must read.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And finally, what will be an action item the FBP family will take away from your main interview next week?
So the book I recently published is called The Affinity Principle. And one of the central themes of that is presence or centeredness. And I would challenge the listeners to do a bit of an audit on their level of distractedness, their ability to focus, their propensity to multitask. Look at how present you are with your team members, with vendors, or, any of your constituencies or your stakeholders. Do an audit of that in advance of the session, and maybe we can, sort of focus on some of the tips to bring yourself to be more present with people and see the difference that it makes.
Okay. FBP family, mark your calendars. Next week, we're going to have Grant Gamble talking on leadership, but more importantly, the affinity principle. Stay tuned. Here's a word from our podcast partner, Gym Sales.
Gym Sales allows you to plan, implement, and monitor a proactive sales strategy that's automated and uniform. You can give your sales team the tools they need to capture, nurture, and convert new members, which means it's easier than ever before to grow your member base. Make sure you head over to gymsales.net to find out more information. Hi everyone, Chantal here. Thank you for joining me for this week's throwback episode. That part of the show when we take a little trip down memory lane as I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the first 5 years of the show. Today, we're actually not heading back too far at all. In fact, this episode was aired at the start of 2020 as part of our New Year's series. The show was called Business Success in 2020 with the CEO of Crunch Franchising, Ben Midgley. During that episode, we talked about 3 key metrics to improve your fitness business, action steps to achieve the result of each of those metrics, and tips to remain focused on your New Year's business resolutions. If you missed that episode at the start of this year, then make sure you take a listen today simply by clicking on the link in today's show notes, or go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for episode number 276. Happy listening.
Fitness Business Podcast family, thank you so much for joining me for this week's show. And a reminder that all the resources and links for today's episode can be found on fbp.com. See you there.
Hi, FBP family. It's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/active management community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.